Hi, welcome to NonStopChess channel. Today we are going to see one of the famous sacrifices of all times. It was played between Henry Edward Bird versus Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy was born on June 22nd, 1837. He was an American chess player. He was called the pride and sorrow of chess because he had a brilliant chess career but retired from the game while he was just 22 years old. Bobby Fischer and Viswanathan Anand ranked Morphy among the greatest chess players of all time. He is considered to have been the greatest chess master of his era and an unofficial world chess champion. This game was taught to me by my father from the book My Great Predecessor, Part 1 by the incomparable Grandmaster Garry Kasparov. In Chapter 1, Game 8, page 37. Now, let's take a look at the game and see how beautiful this was played. Usually, I used to have the board at the white side, but now I'm using the black because Paul Morphy being from the black side, it will be good to see how using the black's view you get to enjoy the game. White plays the e4 and Morphy responds with e5, nf3, and here Morphy plays d6, d4. Now here Bird directly going for an attack. Usually they try to develop the bishop, and Paul Morphy, who is the sacrifice player of all time, starts attacking right from here. He plays f5. f5 usually is not considered good because it is exposing the king's f7 square, which is supposed to be very important for the defense of the black king, and it is also not good since when the white bishop is there, it is not good to advisable to play the f pawn. But Morphy, being a chess prodigy, goes against it. Bird responds with nc3. Morphy takes the pawn, then knight into e4. Here Morphy pushes the pawn and attacks the knight. The knight goes to g3. Morphy pushes the e pawn and attacks the knight on f3. Bird plays knight e5. Here Paul Morphy develops the knight. The idea is to castle. Bird tries to pin the knight and Morphy tries to develop the bishop so he can castle. This is the first mistake as white. Before you go for attack, it's good to actually develop the king side, castle, connect the rook, and then go for attack. But without development, here Bird has gone for an attack, and let us see how Paul Morphy defends and plays a beautiful game. Here Morphy does the castle, queen d2. Morphy plays an unusual move of queen e8, trying to move away from the pin of this knight. Here Bird goes for g4, and now the sacrifice starts from Morphy. He takes n into g4 and knight into g4. Morphy takes the knight and Bird plays knight e5. Morphy responds with nc6. bird attacks Morphy's queen. Queen h3 is played. Now n into c6, b into c6. Bird tries to take back the bishop to the b3. Morphy goes for an attack of the b pawn, which is actually isolated. And now white castles. This position looks actually good for white, since now he has castled, he's connected the rooks, and he has a very good open file on the G square. So please pause here and see if you can spot the move that black would have played. What did Paul Morphy play? Wow, the brilliant rook into f2. Now why this is brilliant is, it looks like the rook is sacrificed for the pawn, and there is no way that it looks like there is any compensation. But let us see what Paul Morphy has in his mind. The bishop accepts the rook, and now comes the next brilliant sacrifice from the black side by Paul Morphy. He gives his queen. Now, if you really see what happens here is, though it looks like a sacrifice, white cannot accept it, because if he accepts it and does bishop pawn into queen, then all black has to do is bishop into a3 and checkmate. The king does not have an escape square. So now let us see what bird responds with. So he plays c3. Now Morphy takes the a2 pawn with his queen. White pushes the b pawn, since he wants to exchange the queen. Since he's a rook up, white should go for an exchange and try to play for the end game. Morphy knows if he exchanges he's going to lose, so he tries to play a waiting move by giving a check first in queen a1 and brings the king to c2. He plays queen a4, and in this position, now that technology is advanced, there are engines that claim by playing queen c1 white has a drawish chance. But back then in the game, white played king b2. And now pause and see what black would have played. Okay, black does another sacrifice here. So he sacrifices bishop, c into bishop, rook into b4. And now there are interesting variations here. If the king moves to, let us say, c3, all the black has to do is just queen b3 and checkmate. So this move quickly gets mated. Instead, if he moves to king c1, again black simply has to give a check in queen a1, king c2 is forced, and then here queen b2 and checkmate. The rook sacrifice. White actually has only one option, that is to kill the rook with his queen. Here Morphy takes the queen, the king moves to c2, Morphy plays e3 so that he can activate his black bishop. He gives a check on bishop f5, rook d3, queen c4 check, and now king d2, queen a2 check, king d1, and queen b1 plus resigns. Now if the king moves to d2, then the queen can take the rook. If the bishop tries to block, white loses the centralized rook. So this is a beautiful game that was played by Paul Morphy, and hope you all learned the brilliant sacrifice of the rook f2. Now to summarize, what you will have to learn from Paul Morphy is the queen is supposed to be 9 points. What is important is a queen in h3 was actually not very active. So if you really see in this position, queen to activate, one way is to come to the A file, and to do that the sacrifice of the rook looks like there's no compensation, but the queen, which is the most powerful piece, becomes so active and dynamic, and that is what key for winning a game. Hope you all like the game. If you like it, please share it with your friends. Look forward to more such videos from NonStopChess. Thank you.